I like to check CNN every day. Now, I know CNN doesn't have the best track record when it comes to truthful, accurate reporting.
Christine, Laura, what you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night.
What do you mean anyone can't? Well, listen, during the theater shooting in Colorado, I was able to go and buy an automatic weapon, and I, maybe have shot a gun 3-4 times in my life. I don't even live in Colorado. I think most people can go out and buy an automatic weapon.
Don, what is your definition of an automatic weapon? What is your definition of an automatic weapon?
Well, for me, an automatic weapon is something that you can shoot off a number of rounds very quickly. I was able to buy an AR-15 within 20 minutes in a state of which that I'm not a
you don't know, in all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. An automatic weapon is when you pull the trigger one time and it continually shoots off. One after another after another. A semi-automatic weapon. I can do that with my
AR-15.
We are hearing from a Native American elder and Vietnam War veteran speaking to CNN after a disturbing viral video shows a group of teens harassing and mocking him in the nation's capital. Here's the video sparking outrage on social media right now. Nathan Phillips was beating his drum and singing an American Indian protest song. And this was on Friday on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial when he saw a clash erupting between a group of teenage students and 4 African-American young men preaching about the Bible and oppression. Well, Phillips says he immediately sensed danger.
To be fair, though, this is a problem that plagues the media at large, both conservative and liberal. But I was surprised by an ad campaign that CNN ran not too long ago that tried to demonstrate its purported facts-first journalism approach.
This is an apple. Some people might try to tell you that it's a banana. They might scream banana, banana, banana over and over and over again. They might put banana in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a banana. But it's not. This is an apple.
Now, wasn't that a great ad? CNN in this ad argued that truth is not dependent on consensus, on volume, on repetition, or even our own beliefs. And while I have to say that I 100% agree, this doesn't really sound like the CNN I know. This is the same CNN that argues that gender identity is not something that has to correspond to objective reality, but is something that is determined solely on what someone feels their gender is. Now, there's a lot that can be said about this, and we'll try and touch on the specifics of modern gender theory a little bit later in the video. But what I wanted to point out is that it's self-destructive and dangerous whenever we as a society begin to believe that we create objective reality with our own minds. It leads to a fractured society where no one shares anything in common, not even objective reality, not even the brute facts. And when we share no common axioms, it's difficult to build bridges, and it's likely that we will always reach different conclusions. But what would CNN's ad look like if they applied the same logic to the transgenderism debate? This is a man. Some people might try and tell you it's a woman. They might scream, woman, 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 over and over and over again. They might put woman in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a woman. But it's not. This is a man. So if truth is not dependent on consensus, on volume, on repetition, or even our own beliefs, what is it dependent on? How do we know if something is true? Well, there are a couple of tests that we can use to test if something is true. The first is called the correspondence test of truth. And the correspondence test of truth is something that we've already touched on in this video. And it asks the question, does this statement correspond to objective reality? Does this statement correspond to the way things actually are? Now, if I came up to you and I said, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm a 6'7" black man from Ethiopia," you'd say, "What are you talking about? That's not true. There's no way you're 6'7", and there's no way that you're black." And what you would be doing in that moment is applying the correspondence test of truth. You would say, your statement does not correspond to reality. Your statement does not correspond to the way things actually are. You're not actually 6'7". You're not actually black. Now, the same thing could be applied to modern gender theory. If someone says, I'm a woman, when in fact they are genetically a man, when they have male features, their statement would not correspond to objective reality. Their statement would not correspond to the way things actually are. So their statement would therefore be false. Now, I recently read the book 1984, which is a dystopian novel. And in this book, the government controls pretty much everything. They have near absolute power over everyone's life. And the main character of the book, Winston, finally gets captured for thought crimes amongst other crimes. And he's being tortured by a government official. And this government official tries to break down his belief that truth needs to correspond to objective reality. And during this torture process, he holds up 4 fingers in front of Winston's face and asks, how many fingers am I holding up? And Winston says, 4 fingers, 4 fingers. And he says, no, I'm holding up 5. I want you to believe that it's 5 fingers. And he keeps on increasing the pain until finally Winston says, you're holding up 5 fingers. He says, no, that's not good enough. You're still lying because you believe that it's actually 4 fingers, even though I told you it's 5 fingers. And what he was trying to do was trying to get Winston to believe that truth is whatever the government says it is. Truth is whatever the ruling party says it is. Truth doesn't have to correspond to objective reality. Truth is simply whatever the government says. And there's this chilling line in the book where the torturer says, we control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the skull. Now, this is very similar to what is happening with the modern gender theory movement. The modern gender theory movement says truth does not have to correspond to objective reality. It doesn't have to correspond to what you see, what you can observe, the way things actually are. But gender identity is based solely on what someone feels it is. They're essentially telling us that truth is dependent on whatever they say it is. Truth is dependent on whatever they create it to be. It doesn't have to correspond to objective reality. And this is a very dangerous belief. And it's a belief that leads to a fractured society, as I pointed out earlier in the video. If no one can even agree on the basic facts of reality, if we can't even agree on the brute facts of what we observe, of the way things actually are, there's no way that we can come together and have dialogue. There's no way we can build bridges. There's no way we can have conversation and build relationships. Now, one other thing to point out when it comes to modern gender theory is that it has an Achilles heel. And this Achilles heel is transsexual people. Transsexuals alter their own bodies in order to have their bodies better correspond to their perception of their gender. They try and alter their bodies so that their bodies will match what they feel their gender is. Now, why would transsexuals alter their bodies if gender was disconnected from a physical, objective reality? And what this goes to show is that gender really is in fact connected to a physical, objective reality. If it weren't, then transsexuals wouldn't feel the need to modify their own bodies, to alter their own bodies to try and match their gender perception. The next test of truth is the coherence test of truth. And this test of truth asks whether a number of statements or a system of beliefs are coherent, whether there's any inconsistency between different statements. For example, if someone wanted to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 4 and that 4 minus 2 equals 3, those two beliefs would be incoherent. You cannot believe both to be true. They are incompatible with each other. They are incoherent. They are in contradiction with each other. Another example of this is with the question of, has the universe always existed? Now, there are some scientists that believe that the universe has always existed, but at the same time, they hold this belief in the second law of thermodynamics, which says that entropy is always increasing. And what that means is that we have less and less usable energy in the universe as time progresses. Now, to hold both of those beliefs, that the universe has always existed and that the second law of thermodynamics is true, to hold both of those beliefs is incoherence. Those two ideas are incompatible with each other. Because if we're slowly running out of energy and the universe has always existed, that means today we would have no usable energy. That's an example of an incoherent belief. So when we're learning about someone's worldview, one of the questions we can ask is, are there any inconsistencies in their beliefs? Do they hold two things to be true that are in contradiction with each other? If so, that means one of their beliefs is simply not true. So today we talked about people who believe that they can create objective reality with their own minds. But there are also people that believe that they can create objective reality through their own words. Now, if you haven't seen my video on Can I Declare Things into Existence and the Word of Faith movement, I would recommend that you check it out. And as a reminder, if you guys like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you guys have any suggestions, any comments, make sure to leave those in the comment section below.